Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. As we continue, it's Thin Lizzy Thursday with Thin Lizzy's eighth album, released on September 1977, Bad Reputation, on Vertigo Records, Mercury Polygram here in the United States. You look at this album cover, we no longer have a quartet on here, do we? We have Brian Downey, Scott Gorham, Phil Lynott. But you open the inside of the CD, we got the four guys here. We also have Brian Robertson in here. Now, what happened when they were recording this album was Brian was booted from the band by Phil because Phil had injured his hand in a bar fight defending Frankie Miller, which hurt them because they had to postpone the tour for Johnny the Fox, and then they went back out. They got Gary Moore to come in for the US dates, and they opened for Queen. So they were recording Bad Reputation. Brian's not in the band, still recovering from a hand injury. Scott Gorham does all of his guitar parts. He doesn't do leads on two because his intention is to convince Phil to get Brian back in the band to play the leads on those songs. Those songs are Opium Trail and Killer Without a Cause. And they also do their twin guitar magic on That Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart. And Brian Robertson would finish the tour for Bad Reputation, which was recorded for the Live and Dangerous album in 1978. So, who's in the band? Of course, we got Phil Lynott on lead vocals, bass, Celtic harp, and string synthesizer. We got Brian Downey on drums and percussion, Scott Gorham on lead guitar, rhythm guitars, Brian Robertson lead guitar on 3 tracks, as well as voice box and keyboards. Tony Visconti, along with Thin Lizzy, produced the album. He's listed as on recorder. I'm not sure what track that would be. We have John Hallowell on here on sax and clarinet on a couple tracks. If you listen to Supertramp, if you've heard anything from Crime of the Century forward, you have heard John Hallowell's very classy, stunning work on those albums. We have John Bochick, Ken Morris, and Mary Hopkin Visconti on backing vocals on the song Dear Lord. We don't have Jim Fitzpatrick here, but we do have Sutton Cooper, who did the photo here. There was a misunderstanding between Phil and Jim Fitzpatrick in doing the artwork, and that's when they went with the photo. So let's go over the track. Soldier of Fortune. What a regal opening here. We're starting with a gong, aren't we? And we got those wind sounds coming from the synthesizers, but then those drums kick in, and then we go into that double-tracked guitar line, not unison, because we only got Scott. We're double-tracking them here. This is a strong opener. We got a nice start-stop verse on here. We got a nice chorus on this. We got some excellent guitar playing. And then the song ends abruptly, and then we go into a march beat from Brian Downey, and that will give us Scott Gorham's lead guitar line. Before we end that, we go back into the main theme, into the unison guitars, go back into the chorus, and we end the song again, very regally with that gong. Good opener. Bad Reputation, the title track. One of the heaviest songs Thin Lizzy's ever done. You can argue this is one of the heaviest songs from 1977, along with Exciter and Dissident Aggressor from Judas Priest, or He's a Woman, She's a Man by the Scorpions, or Sight for Sore Eyes by Aerosmith. I mean, this song just rips. Heavy. The rhythm section of Phil and Brian on here smoke. This is just a wicked song. You can argue one of their best songs, one of their heaviest. We got some great guitar work on here from Brian. The groove on here is very fast, heavy, memorable chorus. Turn yourself around. Turn upside down, turn yourself around. It's kills. Covered by several artists too, like 24/7 Spies, Phantom Blue, The Foo Fighters, and Raven. Speaking of heavy, Opium Trail's pretty heavy too. Another great drug tale from Phil. Great guitar work on here. Phil's very busy bass playing really stands out. One thing I'm not crazy about on this song, and a couple songs on here, the recording sounds like it's underwater on the vocals. Phil's singing well, but just doesn't sound like it's recorded well. But there's plenty of drama on here. This is a heavy tune, and it's a cool one as well. Southbound. Now we get back to the craftsmanship. What a vocal melody on this song. Song about being out on the road. Well sung by Phil. Short, effective chorus on here. Most of the choruses on here are pretty short until the last two tracks. Those double track guitar lines are wonderful. You got some nice counter bass lines on here as well from Phil. Very melodic song. My opinion, they released this as a single in 1977. I think you could have put this on AM radio and got a hit out of it. But the single would be the next track. Dancing in the Moonlight. It's got me in the spotlight. Now, Thin Lizzy would flirt with R&B before, a lot. On Nightlife, of course, running back from Jailbreak. Here it's more traditional, though, with those sax lines by John Hallowell really carrying away. Great soulful vocal from Phil on here. The backing harmonies on the chorus. The bass line, it just feels like a more traditional R&B song that what they had done before, but it is killer. This would be the single. It would go to number 14 in the UK. It did not chart in the US. The song Bad Your Reputation would be the B-side. Killer Without a Cause. Now we get heavier again. This is one of the two songs we got a lead from exclusively from Brian Robertson. Great story sung here. Sung very well by Phil. Very poignant lyrics on here. Another strong track. Last three songs. Mellower. Not as heavy as what you'd normally hear from Thin Lizzy. Downtown Sundown is another song I can easily picture hearing this on AM radio because it's very mellow. It's led by these acoustic guitars. Very tranquil feel on it. Even Phil's vocal on here is a lot mellower. You have John Hellwell's clavinet in the background. One thing I would do is definitely put that more up in a mix because you kind of got to strain to hear it a little bit. But it has that very mellow feel here. I mean, one of the mellower songs in our catalog for sure. That Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart. Very poignant lyrics on here. Very strong chorus lyrically. You got those great unison guitar lines from Brian and Scott on here. The only time you have the unison guitar lines. But again, the acoustic guitars are leading the way in the verses and the choruses. Good solo on here. Little different. You know, maybe a little more like something off of the second side of Fighting. Very good track. Dear Lord, what a closer. And what a chorus. This chorus, I think, is one of the best choruses that Thin Lizzy ever did. And it has that regal feel again with the gong and the keyboards in the beginning and then near the end before the fade outs. Excellent song. Very personal lyrics here from Phil. Very well sung. Again, the harmonies on a chorus are also very strong. So, this Bad Reputation, Thin Lizzy's eighth album from 1977. What do you think of this album? What did you think of Dancing in the Moonlight as a single? Do you think Southbound should have been the single instead? What do you think of the variety on here? We only have like two, maybe three heavy songs. Rest of these songs are kind of mellower, but very melodic. You know, arguably their most melodic album. Please let me know in the comments. And please also let me know what you think of the production on this album, which I think is a little hit and miss in my opinion. Some of these songs are recorded very well, but two songs in particular, I think they definitely need an improvement on. There was something that, particularly Opium Trail, I don't think that was recorded very well at all. Please let me know in the comments. Please join me next week, November 28th, Thanksgiving here in the States, for Thin Lizzy Thursday, as we discuss Thin Lizzy's ninth album, Black Rose, a rock legend, which features Gary Moore on lead guitars. Let's give you some programming notes. Right now, on my friend John Clauser's channel, My Music Corner, we continue the Up to the Limit series on Accept studio albums. We review their comeback album from 2010 and one of my personal favorites, Blood of Nations, our guest this week in his first YouTube appearance, and he did a kick-ass job, Mr. Logan Collins. Monday, November 25th, Grants Rock Warehouse. Please join me and John and DC Tune Time and BM Bolt and Todd Evans and Sydney and Yvonne the Music Man and Ernesto and the incomparable Grant Arthur. We're going to have 9 of us. It's going to be like watching the Brady Bunch, or perhaps the Hollywood Squares, as we talk about our 10 favorite songs from 1986. I got a pretty eclectic list coming. Walk with me. We'll walk in the shadows. I like to give you spoilers. I also will be doing a few shows in the next week here on the Music Nut program. I will have a top 10 list out in the next few days. Top 10 albums from 2000. I'm also going to have another album after episode. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I will tell you this artist had one of the biggest albums in the 1990s, and one that was not traded in often. I think most people who bought this album, well, before the album after, still have it. This album after is going to be a fantastic one. And I have a few other things up on the horizon. I want to belt those out in the next week or so, and I hope you join me for these shows. So, until I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.